Out in the parking lot, the air felt damp and heavy. The same Chevy Impala Terence had reported earlier was now sitting behind police tape, 2 more agents circling it carefully. One of them was taking photos near the rear bumper, another was lifting the trunk with gloves. Rodney Keene stood off to the side, pacing with a cell phone in one hand. The moment he spotted Terence, he exhaled sharply and rushed over. "T!" he said, voice low but urgent. "You all right?" Terence nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think so." Rodney glanced at the agents. "They told me what happened. I called Internal Affairs after I got off the phone with that desk sergeant. Then I called Lisa Conway at the district office. I didn't know it would escalate like this." "I didn't either. You know they had no right to put hands on you, right?" Terence gave a dry chuckle. "They didn't even look at my ID." From behind them, the station doors opened again. 2 officers escorted Coulson out, his arms behind his back, face blank. Mercer followed minutes later, this time without the sunglasses, flanked by 2 agents. No cuffs, yet, but his hands were trembling. A news van had already arrived across the street. Someone had leaked something. A small crowd had formed on the sidewalk, whispering and filming with their phones. Rodney looked over at Terence again. "You sure you're okay?" "I've been better," Terence said. "But I'm glad I said something. I almost didn't." Rodney clapped him gently on the shoulder. "They'll write about this. Probably make it messy. You know how people get when they see uniforms under fire." Terence nodded. "Let them write. I just want the truth out." An agent stepped closer. "Mr. Mallory, we'll need a full statement. You can do it at the courthouse, or we can take you to the regional field office. Your call." Terence glanced toward the courthouse tower peeking above the skyline. "I'd rather go home, but I'll give you what you need." "Understood." But the real damage wasn't just about one arrest. It was about what that arrest revealed behind closed doors. The next morning, headlines were already circulating. "Federal agents raid Raleigh Police Precinct following wrongful arrest. Maintenance worker mistaken for suspect. Triggers FBI corruption probe. 2 officers suspended in wake of surprise federal sweep." But behind those words was something messier, something more human. Terence sat at his kitchen table, still in the clothes he'd worn the day before, minus the belt and shoelaces that had ended up in a precinct bin. He hadn't slept much. A couple hours at most. Not from fear, though that lingered, but from the kind of restless thinking that doesn't let your mind sit still. Across from him sat Agent Corinne Vega, sipping coffee from a plain white mug. She'd come by early, saying it would be more comfortable to talk here than haul him into a formal office. That small gesture wasn't lost on him. "Terence, I know yesterday was a lot, but I need you to walk me through everything. From the parking lot to the moment they put cuffs on you." He leaned back, folded his arms. "I already told one of your guys." "I know, but I need the full version. With the details only you remember." Terence exhaled through his nose. "Fine. I saw the black Impala just after 9. Same car that was flagged in that security meeting 3 weeks ago. 2 men, both white, dark hoodies. One popped the trunk. Looked like he placed something under it. Didn't see what." Vega nodded, scribbling notes. "By the time I circled back, they were gone. The car was still there. I thought about ignoring it. Figured maybe it was a contractor or somebody. But it felt off." "You took the right step," Vega said gently. "Didn't feel like it when I ended up in a cage. They never ran your ID. Never called the courthouse. Coulson's had a pattern of ignoring protocol, especially with black civilians." Her voice didn't rise, but her grip on the pen tightened. Terence gave a half smile. "I figured. He looked at me like I was supposed to be the problem before I opened my mouth. That's what made yesterday important. We've had complaints, at least 9 filed in the last 2 years, all quieted down internally. But your arrest? That gave us the opening we needed. It was in a controlled space, logged on security footage, completely unjustified." Terence rubbed his face. "I wasn't trying to get anyone fired." "You didn't. Their behavior got them fired. You just brought light into the room." There was a knock on the door. Rodney stepped in, holding a newspaper under one arm and a brown paper bag in the other. "I brought egg sandwiches," he said. "And this." He dropped the paper on the table, headline facing up. Routine tip-off sparks federal crackdown on police corruption. Rodney pointed at the photo beneath the headline. Coulson being escorted out of the precinct, face hard as stone. Somebody posted the full arrest video online. It's everywhere. Terence shook his head. I didn't ask for this. Yeah, but it found you. Rodney replied. That's the world we're in now. Vega looked at both men. This case is going to take months, but I'll tell you right now, Internal Affairs is going to press for permanent removal. That precinct is being audited top to bottom. Coulson and Mercer, they're being investigated for more than just your arrest. What else? Terence asked. Tampering with evidence, illegal searches, targeting black drivers in specific neighborhoods. There's even a stash of confiscated property that's gone missing, items that were never entered into inventory. Rodney muttered, Jesus. Terence leaned back in his chair. All that, and I get cuffed for reporting a car. No good deed goes unpunished, Rodney said, then added quietly. But sometimes it starts something bigger. But what came next wasn't just about justice. It was about whether anyone would take responsibility out loud. By Friday afternoon, Terence was back at work. It felt strange walking through the same courthouse halls, badge clipped to his chest, nodding at security like nothing had happened. But people noticed. Eyes lingered longer. Conversations paused as he passed. Not out of judgment, but out of recognition. The story had spread fast. Local news, national blogs, even a few justice reform groups had picked it up. And though Terence never asked to be the center of anything, he was now the face tied to a question people had been asking for years. What happens when the people we trust the most get it wrong? In the break room, someone had left a newspaper on the table again. This one had a smaller headline, but the same weight. 2 officers resign amid allegations. Justice Department expands internal probe. Rodney walked in, holding a mug, and wearing that same thoughtful look he always had when something didn't sit right. Meeting in the main conference room, he said. U.S. Attorney's coming by. Wants to talk to the staff about what's next. Terence looked up from his coffee. Do I have to go? Rodney hesitated. They didn't ask for you specifically, but I think it matters that you're in the room. 20 minutes later, Terence sat near the back wall of the conference room as a woman in a grey suit addressed the courthouse staff. She spoke calmly, clearly, said the Department of Justice would be launching a broader oversight initiative, that the precinct on 4th Street would operate under federal review for the foreseeable future, and that more actions were pending. No one clapped, no one cheered. This wasn't a victory parade. It was a reckoning. After the meeting, a younger employee from Archives, Alyssa something, approached Terence near the elevator. Hey, I just wanted to say what happened to you was messed up. I don't know how you stayed so calm, he gave a small shrug. Didn't really feel like I had a choice. You could have made a scene, screamed, fought back. Terence shook his head. That's not me, and it wouldn't have helped. She nodded slowly, then hesitated. I'm glad you spoke up. Some of us needed to see it's possible to still make a difference. Terence gave a small, tired smile. Just don't let them forget it happened. He took the stairs after that. Later that week, the City Council announced a public hearing. It wasn't just about Coulson and Mercer anymore. Other citizens had started coming forward. A teacher pulled over without cause, a teenager frisked for walking home late, a single mother threatened with arrest when she asked for a badge number. Patterns, ones that had been whispered about for years, were now being spoken in full voice. And there was Terence, sitting quietly in the 3rd row of the council chamber, listening. He didn't testify. He didn't need to. His presence alone added weight to every story told at the podium. By the end of the session, the mayor announced a new civilian review board. Independent, transparent, accountable. As people filed out, a local pastor patted Terence on the back and said, Sometimes God doesn't need a loud man. He just needs a steady one. Terence didn't say much, just nodded politely and kept walking. Back at home, he stood in front of his bathroom mirror, looking at his reflection longer than usual. The man staring back wasn't different. Same eyes, same tired lines, same calm, but something had shifted. not in who he was, but in how the world saw him now. But even when the storm pass, the quiet that follows demands just as much strength. A month later, Terence stood in front of a small crowd at the East Raleigh Community Centre. He wasn't there as a guest of honor or some public figure. It was a neighborhood meeting, folding chairs, a few trays of cookies, lukewarm coffee. Just regular people who wanted to talk. He hadn't planned on speaking. He never liked microphones or stages. But when someone mentioned what happened to him, all heads turned in his direction. The room went quiet. Terence shifted in his seat. Rodney, sitting beside him, leaned over. "You might as well say something." Terence stood up slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. No notes, no speech, just the weight of experience still sitting heavy on his shoulders. "I didn't ask to be part of this," he began, voice low but steady. "I didn't wake up that morning thinking my name would be in a headline. I just saw something that didn't sit right and thought it was my responsibility to say something." He looked around the room. Older folks, parents with kids on their laps, teens slouched in the back. What happened after that? It wasn't about me. It was about how easy it is for people to forget they're dealing with human beings. Not a uniform, not a stereotype. A person. He paused, letting that sit. I was called a liar, cuffed like a criminal, all while doing what I thought was the right thing. And I'll be honest, I thought twice about speaking up ever again. A woman in the front row nodded slowly. "But the truth is," Terence continued, "silence lets broken things stay broken. Sometimes you gotta be the wrench in the system, even when it costs you peace." Someone clapped softly. Then another. Then a few more. "I didn't want recognition. I wanted fairness. And not just for me, for all the people who've been through worse and never got their names in the paper." When the meeting ended, folks came up one by one, shaking his hand, thanking him, sharing their own stories, some decades old, still fresh in their voices. It wasn't closure, but it was connection. And that mattered more. Back at home that night, Terence finally allowed himself a moment to sit still. No agents, no interviews, no side eyes from strangers. Just quiet. He looked through his emails, most unread, and noticed one from a local high school. The principal wanted him to speak at their justice and civics class the next week. Nothing formal. Just, "Tell your story," he sighed, then smiled faintly. Maybe it was worth it, because if his story could keep one kid from being silenced, or one officer from repeating a mistake, then the long walk through that precinct hallway had meaning. And maybe that's the point. Not all change starts with big marches or speeches. Sometimes it starts when one person says, "This doesn't feel right," and refuses to look away. Terence never wanted attention. He just wanted to go home. Now he had the chance to help others do the same. If this story moved you, if it made you think, reflect, or remember something you've seen or lived, don't just scroll past. Speak up when it matters, because silence doesn't fix anything. Subscribe for more stories that matter, and share this one with someone who needs to hear it.